Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
All right, well, let's go to the phone. Joining us here on the show from RacinDirt.com is Trenton Berry. Trenton, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good this morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good. So, first of all, is it raining down that way?
No, it is not. And as my hotel window forecast can tell you right now, there's actually a little bit of sunshine.
Oh, good.
I sound like a promoter a little bit, don't I? That's kind of scary.
No, you should act in that role. It's all sunshine.
Well, listen, we want people to go down there and watch a good race, and it's a little bit of a drive from Kansas City, not too far, but people don't sometimes want to take the risk of driving an hour and a half down there just to find out that it's raining, so that's good. Are they expecting? Have you looked at the local weather down there? Are they expecting weather to move in, and if so, when? And if so, when should it wrap up if it is to rain down there?
That's kind of a loaded question. There is a little bit of a chance of rain all day. I've kept up, not necessarily on the local broadcast, but just what the weather apps and stuff that I look at on my phone. Yeah, I mean there's a chance, but there has been, I'll say this too. There has been about the same chance the first 2 days of this race, and for some reason they've been able to avoid it. Very few sprinkles on the opening night on a couple different occasions, but nothing that ever amounted to much. But there has been rain all around the area. So
who knows then, right? Keep our fingers crossed is all we can do right now, and we'll try to keep people updated on the website as well. Terry Phillips goes into the final night of King of America 3, leading the points with 246.5 points over Al Perkey. I believe Jeremy Payne and Terry were tied at one point. Tell us what happened last night, Trenton.
Very good racing again last night. Both nights have been spot on. The Humboldt Speedway staff's done a terrific job with the racetrack. It's been amazing, and they put a lot of laps on the track the first two nights. There were 18 heat races for the USMTS mods for both the nights. So it's just another good night of action. It's really interesting the way this format is laid out because you got several drivers that the ones that start up front in their first round of heat races are having to come from the back, and your guys in the middle are still in the middle, depending on where the draw was for the first night. So it's provided some really, really exciting racing, and who's in your heat race one time is not necessarily who's in your heat race the next time, and any of the other times for that matter. So it's a pretty cool format that they've gotten. It really takes, a lot of times we hear with stuff in the dirt late model world and the modified world that that everything is so close that these guys say, a lot of times the default bellyache for the racer that doesn't start up front is, well, the draw really hurt me. So with this theory, you can really take the draw and throw it out the window and leave it up to race. Yeah, you could get in a race where you're one of the fast cars starting, fourth or fifth row with some weapons up front, and have some bad luck. But that's just the nature of racing. For the most part, I think it pretty well takes a lot of the luck out as far as getting qualified for this race. Now, it's a grueling qualifying format to set the field for a 100-lap race. I'll say that. It's each of the heat races are 10 laps, so you basically have 40 laps of qualifying to get in the 100-lap show. But it's exciting, and I'm excited too, guys. A 100-lap modified race. I've never in my life seen that, and they are not having a fuel stop tonight, so that should be interesting and add a different element to it. How ironic that for the 100-lap race, two late model drivers on the front row.
I was going to say, we were talking about Al Perkey and what he is up against when it comes to driving the modified and how he approaches that. He is currently second in the points, Al Perkey, 244 points out. Is that a surprise to you that he's having this much success with the talent of drivers that are down there? We know that he's talented, obviously. We know multiple championships in MLRA and all, but is there anybody else surprised to see him up there right now?
I think there might be. I talked to Al quite a bit. He's that was his 19th night behind the wheel of that car last night. To talk to him, no, that's what he expects. He made the A-Main last year. Was he as good as he was this year in his car? Not a chance. He and Justin Rexwinkle teamed up. They built these race cars. They're calling them Shark chassis, or actually JRC chassis by Shark. Shark chassis by JRC, excuse me. Gosh, it's a mouthful on these cars. But anyway, they were cars built out of their race shop down here in the Kansas, Oklahoma area. And they started out with these cars as torque arms, and they went away from that to a bull bar. And actually, Perky got his bull bar for this race car. That's one of the things that Terry Phillips offers. So Al actually has a Terry Phillips bull bar on his race car, and it really seems like it's made all the difference in the world this year. You know, a lot of people in the Kansas City area saw him race at Lakeside, and that format, you know, again, they didn't run off passing points last year in that race, and he started at the back 2 nights in a row and really wasn't able to make up much ground out there. So, surprised, not really knowing his experience, just, you know, with what he did in the late model world. It's pretty interesting to see what he's done, though, because he's by no means one of the biggest budgeted teams out there in the field tonight, and really not even close. But he did a phenomenal job, and it'll be exciting. He was fired up last night after it was all done.
How's he feel about driving a modified compared to a late model? He got so much, in the late model over the years, and then stepping into a modified. How's he feel about the difference between driving these two cars?
Does he feel like he's taking a step back, too?
I don't think he does, honestly, because the competition's so good, and that's, you know, if you were to ask him that's what he would tell you. Is it a little cheaper to race the modified? Sure, but he says it's not really a lot cheaper to do it. And I'll just be honest, he was burned out at the end of let's see, we're in 2013. 12 was his first year. The end of the 2011 season, he was done late model racing. He was burnt out with where it was going. He wasn't happy with the tire situation in the sport, and where that was headed. He needed a change, and he needed to back down. He's in his 50s right now, so.
Hey, that's not old, dude. Really, come on now.
Listen, I'm not saying it's old, but I'm telling you that for him to be as competitive as he was, you know, he certainly doesn't look his age. I'll tell you that for sure. But he needed a change, and I think it was a welcome change. He was kind of tired of all the travel with the MLRA. And you know what? After all that he gave to that sport, the dirt late model racing, he deserved the opportunity to do what he wanted.
Trenton Berry joining us from Humboldt, site of the King of America 3 Modified Nationals. Be wrapping up tonight with a 100-lap A-Main. Stormy Scott is the defending champion of this event. He won a USMTS race there a couple of weeks back. He's the most recent winner of the series, won a race down in Louisiana. He's 26th in points right now. What's going on with him right now?
Well, interesting you bring that up. Every good race needs a little bit of controversy, right, guys?
Right.
Don't you agree?
Well, you know we love a little controversy.
Yeah, well, as do we. He and Rodney Sanders actually, unfortunately, didn't make it through Tech on the second round of heat races the first night, and this is something we weren't aware of until late yesterday afternoon. They had some spindle issues in random Tech, and there were several drivers yesterday, we were told, that also changed some of their spindles as well. The top 25 drivers in passing points all went to the infield and wrenched off their spindles, and everybody had a little extended tech session last night after the races were over.
Wow.
So it's not misleading that Stormy Scott's where he is at. Had his second heat race on the first night counted, both he and Rodney Sanders would have been much, much, much higher in the feature.
Rodney Sanders
is
Rodney Sanders is currently 24th in the points, 203.5 points. So
right, and each of them, you know, Rodney actually when the points broke out the first night before the disqualifications, Rodney would have been third.
Oh wow! No, okay, now do you know what were they doing to manipulate the spindles? Was it? Do you have any idea what the issue was?
I do, and I talked to one of the most veteran, respected crew chiefs in the pit area last night.
Right.
He explained it to me. Basically, they're making negative camber out of the spindles and taking them what should be a stock, what they call a spindle at about 10 degrees, and basically making that hole bigger or moving the hole to about a 7-degree angle on these spindles. They say the right side is more effective than the first, and it's just some technology that's out there. They say that you can actually order these spindles in the magazines, and there's part suppliers that readily supply them. But they said it's not a huge deal. There's obviously something to it, or people wouldn't be doing it. But that also the rules say it's a stock spindle. No drivers that I talked to last night in that about that extended tech that they had after the races bragged about it. They were all for the tech going on.
Now, let me be clear on that. So, what were they changing that angle at? Are they changing the snout angle on the spindle, or is that where it bolts to the A arm and where the ball joints go in?
It's where the ball joint goes.
I got you. Okay, all right. Okay, I got you. Well, that's and you think that that's a pretty common spindle, but that they're policing it down there this weekend, and so probably people have been running this in the past. It just they probably haven't teched this often. Is probably the case, right?
And they said there were the general consensus where there were a lot more than 2 guys with that spindle on Thursday, and that even some of the car makers came out with that spindle.
Interesting.
It basically kind of is their OEM, was what I was told, and so it was interesting to see how that all played out. And that's kind of funny too, because those 2 drivers had easily been the most dominant on the USMTS Tour so far. I'll say this: they didn't really look like they missed much of a beat last night, though, and obviously their stuff had to be correct after the disqualifications on the first night. So talent is talent, no matter where. And, honestly, the way I look at all that stuff is you probably better be flirting in the gray and maybe a little into the black and white if you plan to be fast. And most guys typically are somewhere. Finding them's a whole other story.
That's racing, man. Across the board at every level. Right.
How's the format layout tonight for Last Chance to get into the race? What's the program for tonight?
Last year, it's pretty well similar to last year, as I've been told. There'll be some Last Chance qualifier races, and I would watch for the B main to be absolutely unbelievable. They hadn't quite said last night when we left, and I don't know if it was in the press release. I saw the release was out, but they hadn't quite made up their mind yet on how many were coming out of the B main and how exactly that was all going to work tonight. But all going to lead up to a 100-lap feature, and then in support USRA Ironman B-Mods will be running for 1,000 to win. So good payday for those guys as well. Had a nice field, over 50 of those cars.
Yeah, and I just love the pageantry that goes on down there, the introduction of the drivers with the spotlights in front of the crowd. And, of course, after the race, the throne and the King's Cape and the whole deal, huh?
One of the coolest things, and a little ironic that it's kind of by the beer shack, but they've actually had the King chair right out front, and I've seen several different people and with more frequency a little bit later in the night. Strange how that works out.
Right.
A lot of people getting their pictures taken up in that chair. That is a mammoth piece of wooden architecture. They put it in the back of a side by side or a gator or something, and hauled it over to the front, and it's been over there for the duration. So a really cool event, and the marketing and branding side, they've really got something here with this race.
Trent, before we let you go, any surprises of the drivers down there that either overachieved or underachieved? I mean, we've talked about the guys like Stormy Scott that had the spindle issue, but if you throw that aside, when it comes down to pure performance, overachievers, underachievers.
I'll give you one guy that I don't know if he necessarily. I think he's overachieved this weekend. He's certainly very talented. And you guys will know more about him than I do, but Darren Fuqua just right outside of the top 12. I think he might be like 14th, 15th, 16th in points right now.
15th, right.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal run so far in what I believe is a brand-new race car.
Yep.
It's done a really good job against some, just a loaded competition of different guys, as we touched on in all the heat races. He's kind of taken everything that's been thrown at him and done just a great job pretty remarkable performance, I think. And if everything goes good for him, we should see him in the main event tonight. Very, very impressive run so far.
Yeah.
Underachiever, if you have one. I know that's tough to put yourself out there on somebody like that.
I really don't have one right now, and I don't have anything in front of me. I could have probably come up with one, but I just off the top of my head, there's nobody really
that stands out.
Yeah, that I know of right now.
Hey, have you heard the same as us that Rick Beebe's not down there because he's moving his shop this weekend?
Yes, and that's what he posted that on Facebook, I believe, earlier in the week as well.
Yeah, well, that's a
they had over 120 guys pre-registered for the original week, so that's probably the only bummer I can say for the reschedules. They did lose a few race cars.
Right.
I would have thought John Allen would have fared better. He's a local guy from down around that area.
No,
what's going on?
I would have too, and would have expected that. The defending track champion. He actually his first night, second heat, broke a shock, and that was a big hit for him because he started up front in that particular heat race. So looked a little better last night than he did the first night. But I'm with you. I would have thought that he would have probably been up there digging a little bit more as well. So
here's an underachiever for you. Maybe he had issues, and you can fill us in why. 65th in points right now with 139 points. Mark Dotson.
Well, Mark Dotson was going to finish fourth in his opening heat race.
Yeah.
He and a driver by the name of Tom Tillison got together on the last lap, and Fluffy decided that it wasn't over at the checkered flag, so he decided that he would just go ahead with some extracurricular activity.
Finish him off.
Call down from the booth in that particular heat race. Dotson, you were to finish third, but because of what happened after the checkered flag, you will now be scored last.
Wow.
So Mark was a little bit of his honestly, and he'll probably tell you the same thing. Nice guy and the nicest guy in the world, lost his cool and it cost him.
Here's another.
I'll just tell you something about Mark Dotson, and I like the guy, but sometimes he just pulls the old chin strap a little too tight. You know what I mean? Cuts off the flow a little bit.
And that was a really unfortunate deal because not that it's really any of his concern, but that also caused Terry Beckham after the race to be involved. And absolutely mangled his race car down in turn one.
And he was an innocent bystander, right? Innocent bystander?
Yes, and listen, I'm never going to bag on somebody, but there's no place for what happened after that checkered flag, and Staley absolutely made the right decision.
It must not have just been a little bump after the checker then. It must.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. Not at all.
Well, and let's be fair. When Mark makes up, let's be fair. When Mark makes up his mind that he's going to blow a gasket, he usually does a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, and he was there last night, and he was fighting again. You just hate this. I mean, there's so much effort that has to go into to qualify for this race. It's just silly to lose your head like that, and that was. Honestly, he was his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Here, one other driver I'm curious about, he always runs well at Humboldt. Where's Johnny Bone Jr.?
Johnny Bone Jr. That is interesting. You guys bring that one up. I've got something for you on that one as well. He they had the little tire situation last year at Humboldt.
Right.
He was always all along cleared to run the USMTS races. Which he ran a few following the incident in late July. Whether he did, whether he didn't, I'm not here to answer that. As there's just nothing that I've been told definitively what has happened. So they have decided that they are not going to race at Humboldt Speedway. They had all the clearances to race. They are welcome back to race there. He is actually at the Kager at Tri-State Speedway just outside of Fort Smith, Arkansas. This weekend in a race that is actually sanctioned by the USRA, but as I have been told, they will not be competing at Humboldt.
So this is some form of protest here. Basically, is kind of what this is.
I would say that's probably how you would have to classify that. Yeah.
Right.
Any special remembrance of Ron Whitworth? Or, it's going to be hard driving in there tonight, not thinking about him, and we unfortunately lost him here over the off season, and I'm sure everybody is thinking about him and how sorely he is missed. But I'm sure that's on the minds of everybody down there this weekend.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it is, and to see a place that he's had his hand on every part of that facility is tough. I'll tell you this: they've done an admirable job on the racetrack, and Ryan Whitworth's led the charge on that. His son, unquestioned leadership with the family at the top. One of the most stable racetracks in the area, an absolute gem of a facility and a racing surface. It is tough, and it's hard to see their T-shirts and hoodies this year have Rom's photo on them, and to see those at the racetrack is pretty tough. But it's also neat that they're remembering him. Had a lot of people stop and talk and say that sort of stuff along those lines, and certainly missed. But I think one of the marks of a great man, the foundation and the team that he put in place has showed that they're certainly more than capable to carry on the tradition he started.
Right.
Although everybody there misses him, and he would be a valuable.
Well, I was going to
no
say,
doubt about it.
Mark of a great man, a great woman, Renda Whitworth, of course, always very much a big part of that racetrack down there.
It appears that they're up for the task.
You bet.
Though,
well, and we're not surprised that they are. We knew they would be.
Right,
yeah.
right, exactly.
One of the things they did too, guys. They've got such a great staff of people that have worked there, and people that have been with them for years and years and years. And you guys know how it is. When you go in as media to some places, it's almost like you're a second-class citizen, and what are these schmucks doing here? And I'm telling you, with this track staff, I think you could probably go have Sunday dinner at any of their houses.
No doubt.
They're those kind of people, and they employ good people. They're good people, and it makes it a joy to go to that racetrack. And I don't have one single negative thing or drawback to this facility. This is absolutely one of the top racetracks I've ever been to.
They set the standard, in my opinion. I think you'd agree with that too, Trenton.
No question about it. That place is everything that a grassroots motorsports racetrack should be. No question.
You know what? I was thinking about going to Wichita tonight for the NCRA 5,000 win race, but my body's starting to tell me I'm going to Humboldt tonight. Trenton, before we let you go, I got to talk to you. You're the voice of the MLRA, Lucas Oil MLRA Late Model Series. The season kicks off here next week, April 5th and 6th. It's the Spring Meltdown up at I-80. It's a big event. ASCS is going to be up there. I know you've been involved with MLRA now for a few years, but you cannot be more excited than what's going on right now with the purchase by Lucas Oil and the leadership of Dan Robinson on the future of MLRA.
Man, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Ernie Lethbridge is down here as well this weekend, and talked to Lloyd quite a bit as well. Everybody is they're jonesing for some late model racing, and to get it kicked off up at I-80 next weekend will be phenomenal. They've really done something good with that event, taking it from a one night to a 2 night, and that obviously makes the drivers happy as well. And it seems like there's been a lot of preparation and a lot of stuff behind the scenes that have gone on. With a lot with Dan and Ernie from a lot of the day-to-day operations. And I think it'll be exciting, guys. The point fund set, it's been announced, which is something I always felt like should have been done all along. The tow money as well, that's another program that, while it's $200 to each driver in the top 10, I mean, that's a pretty good chunk. That's $2,000 extra per race that'll be divvied out amongst your most loyalist competitors. So I'm excited for it. I look for a big field up at I-80, especially with 2 days. And they've also got a practice session there for those guys as well next Thursday night. So, yes, very, very, very excited. And I think that the door is swung wide open on the champion for this year. So we'll have to see who starts well. Interesting as well, as of right now, no races can split between the Mars and the MLRA late model series. So if you're a late model driver in this region, it's definitely a good time for you, and you're in a better situation than you've been for the past several years as far as being able to race and a chance to make some money.
RacinDirt.com. Tell us about your coverage down here this weekend and everything that you got going on with the website, Trenton.
Sure, I appreciate it, guys. A lot of video stuff, video heavy. A lot of the action is up. We've got a little bit more to work on here this morning. Honestly, 2 nights ago, I fell asleep with my shoes on, so I decided I didn't want to do that 2 nights in a row, but I was up about 4 this morning working on stuff. So we got quite a bit of stuff left to work on here today, but a lot of coverage from Humboldt this weekend, and of course we'll have a lot of the late model action from I-80. and a lot from the MLRA and USMTS going forward this year. Just excited to get going again, and I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Hey, not a problem, Trenton. Appreciate it. Good job over there at Racing Dirt, and we'll be talking to you down there tonight, it looks like, okay?
All right, guys. I'll look forward. Get there early. Now, there's not going to be a whole lot of seats left tonight, so they had a big crowd there last night, so you'll want to be sure to get somewhere.
I learned.
By the way, give us a rundown start times and everything, and how long does it take from Kansas City to get down there?
It is, you're probably looking at, I don't know, tick over 2 hours maybe.
A tick over 2 hours?
Yeah.
And things get underway at what time?
Everything is 1 hour earlier tonight, so I'm assuming that's going to put the start time right at 6 o'clock.
Cool.
6 o'clock.
It is what I believe. Now, all that stuff's included in the press release this evening, so
I'm going to leave about noon
I
or 1.
I believe it's 6 o'clock. You guys might want to double check.
Okay. All right, buddy. Well, thanks so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Trenton.
All right. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Hey, not a problem. We appreciate you being on. Thank you. There's Trenton Berry.
Yep. He's our friend.
He's our friend, you know.